Freefilmers is originally a film collective which was founded in coastal city of Mariupol, which is in Ukraine. It was industrial city, and our founder Sashko Protych lived there before full-scale invasion, and that's how it was founded there also. But also geographically, it's important that region because in general, east and south of Ukraine is very just multicultural, and a lot of history is just intertwined there. So our interest was particularly in that regions, and also because we are, as a collective, we were working with the topics of decentralization, horizontal collaboration, urban spaces, post-industrial history, and so on. So that's why this region was like our main scene. But after full-scale invasion, we stopped. We didn't stop producing films, and we didn't stop to be artists, but we started to work much more in the field of activism and solidarity screenings to support grassroots initiatives in Ukraine. So I would say that we are both artists and a volunteers collective now. KUNSTRAUM Innsbruck was so nice to invite us here. As I know, everything started just from one screening. And after the screening, the curator Ivana Marjanović decided to invite us here, and that's how we are here. So this font Yebenya is my life. It means bombfuck nowhere is my life, and this idea of bombfuck nowhere or nowhere, it's usually used as some negative word to describe some place which is somewhere on the margin or like backyards where no one goes to and whatever. But we as a collective, we work a lot with this idea of what is center and what is periphery, and why what is on periphery is always called something less valuable or less interesting, and it gets less resources, and so on and so on. So that's why we decided to use this word as a signifier of that actually Yebenya is a productive place. It's because it's out of reach of industries, it's out of reach of all capitalist movements and so on. But of course, these places are very few, and that's why they are also precious, because these are places where you can be lost and do random things, and also it's connected to drifting, to free walking, to owning the public space, to be there and be fully there. So Yebenya is my life. It has two meanings. One is my life is bombfuck nowhere. It can be read as something negative or sad, but also from the other side, it is a statement. Our life is bombfuck nowhere because we value periphery more than center and drifting more than touristic destinations. So that's why it is. And Uliana Bachenkova, she's a Ukrainian graphic designer and artist and a feminist and a researcher. So she agreed to develop this font for us, which will be uploaded for free use to internet once it's finished. Now it's still in process. And this font is called Korchuvatka. Korchuvate is a neighborhood in Kyiv. So we call this, it's like a new Barbie font, but Korchuvatka. The process of working with the text was very interesting because it's a text like language, but then when we design it, it's also image. So, and this is something also about how language function and in general how we read messages. So it was really interesting to work with Uliana because when we asked her to do this, she didn't. So what I sent to her as references, I sent to her nightingale singing in the neighborhood. I sent to her photographs which I made on my phone during long walks, because it's also nature reserve next to it, and there are a lot of old trees which grow through metal fences and kind of swallow them. So I sent her also this, and I sent her some sounds of night birds and beach, and this is weird combination of this concrete late Soviet architecture with some post-industrial artifacts and with nature. So for us, it's all beautiful. We don't say it's also about human nature, this all bipolar things. So we are saying that all of this is together, one structure or one organism. And she somehow when she was writing, sending us her working process, it was like so interesting to see, because she would like find different references from different like physical objects in letters. So, for example, yeah, it's very interesting. For example, this is Ukrainian letter "ye," and this like "tan," we call it "tan." So we have two versions of it. One of it is like a thunderstorm or like electricity, which is like more like straight, and this is more like soft, like body or like so. And she was explaining that she was trying to do it both like brutal architecture, but also softness and like rigid structures mixed into one. The title of the exhibition is Freefilmers Mariupol, but actually it's not only Freefilmers. It's also, we always say that Freefilmers, it's not just Freefilmers, it's Freefilmers plus friends. So because we always collaborate, and our practice would not be possible without this, because we collaborate with grassroots initiatives and like with different people, artists, so it's important. And also we just like some other artists, they make cool art, so we invited them. And I would say it's 50-50. It's like half works of this exhibition are Freefilmers, and another half is another artist from Ukraine. Their works are very different. Some of them were made before full-scale invasion, some of them after, but all of them were produced after 2014, meaning after war has actually started in Ukraine. And for example, Yulia Lokhachova, she says that her practice is very different if to compare with 2014 and now, but still it was always connected to these topics of violence. In general, like feminist artists or artists who deal with topics of gender-based violence, for example, they say that actually all our work is about war, because this is invisible war which is ongoing, and it's like always. So because of her works are reflecting how female body is present in urban spaces where she's coming from, and she's coming from Kherson, which is south of Ukraine. And it's like, when you just look at this, it's just like simple scenes, like from life, but also you can notice this like how violence is like structural part of society, how like female body is treated differently and whatever. So it's like, and she calls these works scenes from film, or like film strip, and each of the styles is like a little scene, and it's like half imagined characters and how her own experiences, how she explains. And also other works are about Zaporizhia neighborhood Cosmos, for example. Natasha made it, I don't remember which year, but it was also about urban space. And it's slightly different topic. It's not about gender. It's more about, in general, human body, how it's conditioned by physical surrounding. Like how, for example, texture or streets you grow in influence who you are, like your identity. Like place is structural part of identity. So it's more about that. So Freefilmers exhibition is diverse, and even though it's in short is described as a struggle of a collective and their collective Freefilmers and their friends against imperialism in general, but we are not that straightforward with that. If to attentively look through the works, they are more complex and multi-layered. They combine some memories from past and nowadays experiences, and they are about a lot of different things. For example, Svetlana Shemko and Galina Yarmanova's work, My Beautiful Years. It's in general archival research about how gay people or queer people were surviving in late years of Soviet Union, and it's basically compiled of archival footages of correspondence, letters, and also film, and it's just like found footage. Musical, which was produced by Olha Marusin, but in which participated lots of internally displaced people. It's also about experience here and now. There is a lot of humor and joy, which adds like this another dimension to the experience of people who are displaced, for example. And because it's their own vision of themselves, it's very precious. As we say, we don't need producers from Europe, from Western Europe, to come to Ukraine to make movies about us. Like, we want to tell our own stories in our own language. So this musical is this perfect story told by people using this language which they prefer to describe themselves. Yes, and also Sashko Project's works, for example, they are most recent and they were produced after full-scale invasion. They also are not that simple to consume. They are, you know, he questions a lot of things. They are not working. They cannot be propaganda. They cannot be used for propaganda because they're too complex for that. And for example, he is showing how people can self-organize and be in solidarity with each other, which also is a lot about our collective. And yeah, it's like this different perspectives on certain place during certain period of time. And when we see this perspective from the historical perspective, okay, let it be like this, then we understand more about place. Then we would be just saying the straightforward messages, do this, don't do that. It's more about place through history, which means it's very heavy contextualized. It has lots of different contexts. Other works are also dealing with topics of different strategies to resist, so-called soft resistance maybe. And one of these strategies, as Katerina Alinek says, is gardening or planting. She writes also texts and she's a painter. And in her paintings, she is kind of showing this earth or dirt, what's in there. There are vegetables, human bones and skulls, and also mines and bombs. So this is what Ukrainian land is now. People don't refuse gardening no matter what, and they even die for this. Not for this, but because of this, because Ukraine now is one of the most mined territories in the world. Alina Yakubenko's work, she produces a lot of them and she works very fast. She makes them small, and what's interesting in her perspective is this contemporary modernity of war, because a lot of her characters on the picture, on the sketches she makes, or graphic works she makes, are holding some devices, phones and stuff, and etc. But also she connects it to the non-human world, because this war also showed, I don't know if it's correct to say if this is this war show, but in general, when land suffers, not only humans suffer. Land is a lot of other things. So she has a lot of non-humans also depicted together with soldiers on her work, in her works. And interesting. And other works are by Vasil Tkachenko, Lach. He started producing big-scale paintings after full-scale invasion with no education, with no prior education. And his works are interesting because he paints them actively, meaning he invites his friends to recreate certain scenes. For him, it's important for people whom he paints to physically engage with objects, to be in that scene. For example, if it's a scene of two people carrying something wrapped, we don't know what's in there, so he asks people to do that, to just physically experience what does it mean to drag some hard object somewhere, for example. And in this way, it becomes processual. It's interesting how painting, which is this genre, which is still, it becomes a movement, processual thing. And my works are also included here, two of them, Love and Digging. Digging is a documentation of a performance which I made in Syracuse in 2021. Syracuse, it's a city in the state New York in the USA. I am studying there, and that's why I was there. And from being afar from my country, from my home, I consumed a lot of images of how people were taking care of the dead. And for me, it was something very precious and valuable, because we do use images of dead bodies, but mostly for, like, media abuse them a lot. Just like these images circulate a lot, and like they don't add anything, they don't say anything, and they don't work for people to empathize. And I was like overwhelmed by all these usage of bodies, like circulation of these images. But then I was also thinking about these other people who don't do any images, but who dig like instantly, constantly. I think I did this performance as just a physical action for me, because I couldn't do any other. So I decided to dig a grave on the playground in Syracuse to just show how space drastically changes when there is a grave, like when it's a playground and then there is a grave. But this is also just a reality. It's not even something I fantasized. We have a lot of these images also when people were burying their close ones, using playgrounds as the only one accessible plots of land after shelling or bombing. Also, we have a flea market work, which is both a piece of art and part of exhibition, but also it's supposed to be sold, because we're also trying to raise money to keep our activity and to go on with supporting all people we support. So these are T-shirts which are silk printed, and our collage and some postcards. So they are both like part of our activity, and we don't separate this like practical everyday things from like art. For us, like art is practical everyday things. So viewers can come in and buy some art.